My dad passed away this morning. He was riding his motorcycle to work early this morning. At around 2:30 a.m., he crashed his bike. We're thinking he had a heart attack, and that's what caused him to crash. In high school, about 13 years ago, I had to do a paper for English class. The topic was, write a paper on either a personal hero of yours or something that influenced you growing up, and then present it to the class. I wrote my paper on my dad. I wrote about how much I loved him, how much he cared for me, his 15 years in the Army, and how he was raising me to be a successful adult. I probably spent more time on that than any other paper I did. I was proud of it, and happy I got to read it aloud. Later that evening, I mentioned the paper to my dad, told him we could do it on either a hero or something that influenced us. He asked what I did mine on. I was embarrassed, so I told him I did it on a band. The last 13 years, I've regretted that. The last 13 years, I've wanted to tell him what I did the paper on. Just 2 days ago, it came across my mind again. Dad, I wrote that paper on you. You're my hero, always were and always will be. I'm sorry I didn't tell you how much I loved you and how much you meant to me. Thank you for always being there. I love you, Dad. Edit. Wow. I did not expect this kind of response. Thank you, everyone, for your wishes and condolences. The stories you guys told down really hit close to home. Again, thank you. And if anyone needs to talk or anything, send me a message. Update March 26th. No one is probably going to see this, so I'm really just doing this for me. Things have been real hard, as you can imagine. My mom has had it the worst, but at the same time, I know things are getting better. My family isn't sobbing anymore, and my mom isn't hysterical. People still cry, but it isn't as prevalent anymore. We had a little private viewing on Thursday. It was awful, but needed, I think. Yesterday was the visitation. I expected 30 to 40 people to show up. Turns out roughly 250 people were there. It was insane. My dad apparently touched a lot of lives and meant a lot to a lot of people. He was an engineer on the railroad the last 16 years, and the railroad literally shut down all operations so the workers could come. Today is the funeral, starts in about 3 hours. Not really sure what to expect. I'll be speaking during the service and actually reading the story since I don't have a copy of this paper anymore. Update April 14th. Again, definitely not expecting a single soul to see this. Maybe I'm just using this as a journal of sorts. I don't know. Anyway, the funeral was exactly like he would have wanted. He was a retired soldier and was proud of his service, so we had a military funeral. It began at the funeral home where somber family and friends filed in. The minister began everything and then called me up to say some things. First being something from my mom, who wanted me to tell everyone what her family in Germany is doing in regards to the death. Then I told my story, the one from above. Then I finished off with the Fiddler's Green poem, which is a poem about where deceased cavalrymen go, which he was. I changed a few words around to make it more appropriate and left out the final verse. The funeral was about 40 minutes long, and then the 38-car procession left to the nearby army base where we held the military funeral. It was very nice. Minister said some words, taps, 21 gun salute, and the folded flag which my mom received. It's exactly what he would have wanted. A couple days after the funeral, my mom flew to Washington to stay with my brother and his wife. She's flying back tomorrow and then flying to Germany in a few weeks to see her family. While she's home, I'll be living with her for however long she needs, as well as when she gets back from Germany. My family is doing better, I think. My mom still had episodes, as do I. It's been a little harder this last week, not exactly sure why. I decided to go to the crash site where we erected a cross with his name, date of birth and death, and a sign with a poem. He worked at the railroad for 16 years and his co-workers were very affected as well. Someone stopped at the cross and put my dad's work vest around it. It was touching. I lost it right there on the off-ramp from the interstate. No one has gone to see the tombstone yet. We're waiting for my mom. Since it's on a military base, the tombstones are all uniform, but they let us personalize the words some. My mom let my brother and I pick the personalization. It will say on 3 different lines, Proud Veteran, Black Horse, Scouts Out. Black Horse being his favorite unit while he was in, and Scouts Out a sort of saying among cavalrymen. Update July 9th. I've gotten a few messages lately asking about how I'm doing and such. It's unbelievable that A, so many people commented on this, and B, I'm still receiving messages like that 4 months later. Well, things have gotten better. One of the comments here said something along the lines of, "One day he'll no longer be the first thing you think of in the morning, he'll be the second, then the third, then the fourth." I guess that's where I'm at. I still think about him every day, but it isn't the first thing. I'm not sure what I said and didn't say previously, and I don't want to read up. It would hurt too much. So if I repeat something, I'm sorry. We got the death certificate a while back, took longer than normal, they said. His death was officially ruled accidental, but it also says his heart was probably a factor, but it couldn't be proven. Apparently, he didn't have but a couple bruises and some other injuries that wouldn't have been fatal. All of his motorcycle gear was on. My mom didn't tell me this initially, but sometime later, he left for work at 2 a.m. on his motorcycle. She said just a couple minutes later she heard a motorcycle stop in front of their house, and their dogs perked up like he came home. She said she didn't hear him open his truck or anything, just that a motorcycle stopped in front, and a minute or two later drove off. She thinks, and I do too, that he might not have been feeling well and turned around. That maybe he was coming home to have her take him to the hospital, then decided against it. If that was the case, I've been wondering if maybe he wasn't feeling well the last leg of the trip. He was only 1 or 2 minutes from his work. Just maybe he knew something was really wrong at the end, and he tried making it to his work. He felt dizzy or something and knew he had to get there quickly for help. But then he just blacked out. We'll never know for sure, but I at least believe he came back and thought about going to the hospital. We've finally gotten a couple of the life insurance claims back, so that makes my mom feel more secure financially. She was real scared she wouldn't get anything or not get enough to support her. But my dad really set her up, so she should be fine. One policy her purchased pays off 98% of their mortgage. It's crazy. We're expecting her to get around $600,000, and my dad's railroad pension kicked in last week. That was a real bad day for my mom. Every couple of weeks I'll have a real bad day, so I'll stop at his cross on a highway. I feel more attached to that than the military cross on base. Father's Day was terrible. I took my motorcycle there along with an ex-girlfriend. Aside from that, I guess I don't have much else to say anymore. My friends still ask about my mom and such, but I'll usually try and change the subject if it gets too deep, still hurts too much to talk about. Anyway, I guess I'll update again later, probably not as long as the 3 months it took for this. Thanks for the continuing, guys. Update October 8th. I'm still receiving messages and comments from a lot of Redditors asking how we're doing or that my story has gotten them thinking about their own loved ones. I did not expect any of this. At the time I wrote this, I was a sobbing mess and just wanted to vent to myself and figured writing my feelings down would help. But here we are 6 months later and there are still a lot of reactions coming my way, so I figured I'd do another update. But first I want to apologize to everyone that messaged or commented and I never replied to. I responded to as many as I could, but it got to be too much, so I'm sorry. Well, update. Since July, my mom managed to complete all of the life insurance paperwork with the help of an attorney. The attorney found an additional policy that we did not know about, a policy worth $500,000. So my mother ended up receiving close to $1 million from all of the policies, and there was another that required the bank to pay off 97% of their house. My dad wanted her to live her life exactly however she wants. He wanted her to go shopping, take trips to Germany to see her family, and never have to worry about money ever again. None of us had any idea he had so many policies, let alone what was in them. My mom is taken care of for life. The attorney she hired went with her to see a financial advisor at Edward Jones. He came up with safe, slow-growth investments and put some money into CDs that will ensure her money will last for several years to come. My mother even purchased a new house last week, in cash LOL, the house of her dreams. It isn't big, but it has privacy and it's wooden on the outside, which is something she said she always wanted. As far as my brother and I'm doing better. Someone on here told me a while back, right now he's the first thing you think of. Eventually he'll be the second, then the third, fourth, etc. Whoever said that was absolutely correct. I still think about him every day, mostly at night or when I'm working on someone's furnace in the basement because I'm usually alone with my thoughts. I'm in HVAC. I have several great friends that are always there for me, and a special friend that will sleep over with me on bad nights. I've been in contact with the VA about trying to see a therapist, but the paperwork to see one that isn't VA affiliated is long and arduous. My brother's wife recently found out she's pregnant, It's fantastic news, obviously, but solemn as well because they'll never meet each other. I have a 5-year-old and it worries me he won't remember his grandfather. My dad absolutely loved my son and spent a lot of time with him. I'm sorry if this is rambling. It's 11 p.m. and I'm on call, so I'm pretty exhausted. I'll for sure update again. It helps typing these things out and helps much more knowing it's helping others. Thank you all for taking the time to read my story and all of its updates. Update December 1st. My mom moved out of their house 2 weeks ago and it's up for sale. There's already one interested buyer and an open house tomorrow. I drove by the old house and saw the for sale sign. I got pretty emotional over that. It was strange. So many memories there. Obviously family memories, but all of my high school memories and, well, a lot of memories with my best friends and various girlfriends as well. It's just strange. Her new house is very nice. It's one of those that looks small on the outside, but the inside is real big. The previous owner was a carpenter by trade, so he created a lot of custom woodwork throughout the place. It's very, very nice. Side note, my mom fell on ice a few days ago and cracked her kneecap. She was supposed to go to Germany with my brother and sister-in-law in their weeks, but the doctor had said she might not be able to fly. Not really sure why not, but that's what he said. That's all I can think of right now. I'll update again later. Update January 5th, 1919. It's strange to think about my dad being gone. That one day he's here in my apartment and 10 hours later he's gone. Like I'll never see him again. Talk to him again, hear his voice. He's ashes in an urn underground now. I just want to see him one more time, hear him, tell him I miss him. He's physically gone, forever. I mean, I saw him. Then 10 hours later he's gone, and no one saw it coming. I keep wondering what his last minutes were like. My mom heard his motorcycle pull up a few minutes after he left for work and then leave after a minute. Maybe he wasn't feeling well and thought about going to the hospital. I wonder if he wasn't feeling well the whole way to work. When did he realize something was seriously wrong? How fast was he going so he could make it to work to get help? He was only 1 or 2 minutes away. Was he panicking? What was he thinking? I keep imagining that's what happened, that he was getting close to work and suddenly he started feeling like something wasn't right. So he drove as fast as he could to get help but didn't make it. Did he know he wouldn't make it? What were his last thoughts? Was he only thinking about getting help or was he thinking about his family? 2018 was awful. I lost several big parts of my life. My girlfriend moved out the same exact night he passed away. I spent most of 2018 depressed, literally. The majority of 2018 I was sad more than any other emotion. When I was happy, it didn't seem to last very long. I have an appointment with a therapist next week. I'm nervous. But so many things happened in 2018 and I don't know who else to talk to except that ex that moved out. She's still my best friend and I tell her everything, but I am still in love with her so I cannot talk to her about her. I'm just sad and depressed.